Hello, Reframeables. It's Beck.
And Nat, two very different sisters who come together each week to reframe some of life's big and small problems. We're moms, writers.
We have soft boundaries. We see the world differently, but we both lean into vulnerability together and with our guests. We like deep dives, so come with us. Let's reframe something. This week, we are examining missed moments. I think you came up with that idea, Nat, for missed moments, didn't you?
Yeah, because I'm interested in reframing every possible thing, even the moments that we have never had.
It's just an obsession now for you, isn't it?
Or, Rebecca, it might be a reflective praxis for mental health hygiene. Isn't that kind of the buzzword right now? So take your pick. I know in my own life, for real, there is a temptation to get stuck in the feeling of, well, like, what if I had done that thing differently? So I think because it's so deeply connected to my leg, and so on my worst days when I'm like going down the road of the what ifs, I feel like it's a good thing to really ponder what those missed moments have done for me.
Are we on a mission to release people from their what ifs?
Maybe. Or at least I think that maybe if we share them, we might kind of loosen them a little bit.
Okay. So what's something that needs loosening for you? Is it related to your leg?
Yeah. And I actually took a moment to write it down. So I'm going to read it, okay? Because I think that if I don't read it, it'll get a little bit garbled because it's so very deeply personal and in my body and all that stuff. So here we go. My life changed when I got sick. My illness, a decade ago, changed my life. Pain is never far away in my right leg. I am constantly having to maintain it, even in its reduced state. So both mental and monetary resources are being used in all of that work. Small pleasures have been removed. Fashionable shoes, beach walks, matching limbs, whatever that means. And it really was a missed moment that brought me to this place. It was a fever and an unwillingness to ask for help. And when the pain started, instead of reaching out to anybody to ask for help, I chose to go up to the street to the gym instead. At 10 p.m. at night, I said to myself, I'm going to go run this off. Had I just looked in the mirror, like simply looked down at my own body, I would have seen a rash that was spreading fast and furious up my leg. And a lot can change in 24 hours. The emerge nurse said to me those exact words as she was putting me in the ambulance. She said, well, it would have been better if you had been here earlier. So that's the what if, right? What if I had been here earlier? Of course, now all these years later, we all know better. And yet, if it weren't for that missed moment, I wouldn't have such an empathetic connection to so many who suffer daily. So it's another thing to feel with people in their pain. So I guess I could be thankful for that moment in time. It was a fork in the road that I might not have chosen to travel, but we're here now, and I certainly wouldn't trade all that's come with it for a healthy leg. So that missed moment has brought me to this conversation with you.
Wow. Are you serious when you say that about you wouldn't trade all that for a healthy leg? Because that's serious. You're serious about making meaning out of your pain, Nat.
It could make me cry as I think about it, but I wouldn't trade it because there would be no Frankie. I don't even think there would be a Clifford. I mean, we had only been dating like 6 months when everything happened, but I don't know that we would be now 10 years married had that whole disaster not happened. Like maybe it just would have been like another relationship to get to the next relationship, right? But trauma does have the ability to bring people really together. I think I've shared that story, right? That I remember Dad calling Mom, and you might even have actually told me about it. I don't know. But when Mom was away, when all that was happening as I was in the hospital, and Dad said to her, well, this Clifford has really shown his true colors, which was that he was dedicated and sleeping on the emergency room floor with cockroaches. So, I mean, like, there was a lot of amazing good that came out of it. I do wish at times that my leg wasn't hurting all the time. Like, I don't long for the pain. I'm not that kind of a self-flagellatory kind of human, but I definitely recognize its value. So yeah, a missed moment brought me here. And, I don't know. My choices are a bit limited, Beck. I can't really say. Do I wish that I could trade it all away? Because then I wouldn't have what I have. And you know what? This is kind of maybe funny to say, but so the compression socks that I have to wear, there is actually like a strange new joy found when I crack open a new box. Like, there is joy to be found in very little things. So that is a thing that I would never have found joy in before had I not been on this very specific path. So yeah, I guess I'm not kidding.
If reframing was a brand, Nat, I would like to call you the brand ambassador.
Okay, true. I would love to get paid for this position. So somebody out there, my compression socks company.
I'm not kidding though. Like, when I hear someone else use that word, I'm like, why are you taking Natalie's word? It's Natalie's word, reframing.
Yeah, I guess I have claimed it. Maybe that's it, right? Claiming language. I've claimed it.
We asked our friend Jessica about her missed moment. You might remember her from episode 39. We'll jog your memory. Dum, 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 dum. I like that your floor is usually dirty.
It is.
And would you bother to clean it? Yeah. The reason I asked that is because I was just reading this morning some artist talking about how he likes the layers of dust, like through every artwork that he creates, dust gets created, and he never wants to clean the dust because he just wants all the layers.
It's beautiful and true. Like, if a hair lands in a painting, I leave it. So I do love the layers of our humanity on things. Dum, dum,
dum, dum, dum, dum, dum. And she sent us this story. Scout was a dog on the lam. He'd been accused of killing a Jack Russell. Dad liked the story the farrier told while he clipped our horse's nails. A horse killed a yapping Jack Russell with one swift kick. Dad's neighbor said he'd shoot Scout for his misdemeanor. Scout moved into family housing with me on campus. Scout wasn't a city dog. He was afraid of children, traffic, cars. I took him for walks, hoping he'd acclimatize to college life. On these walks, he'd peep into strollers and freak out, which made everyone panic. Babies, parents, me. He'd quake until we were in the forest where he, like me, was cool as a cucumber.
We'd scoot through trees to get groceries. Then I'd tie him to a bike rack. He'd wait for me, shaking. One day, on a quest for nuts, I came out and he was gone. I imagined many deaths before someone ran at me, chest first, sweater caped out behind. "Are you looking for your dog?" A rush of relief. Then fright. Had she creamed him in the parking lot? "Yes," I said. "Well," she said, "he's in my car. He is so cold. Shame on you." All I managed was "thank you." I couldn't very well say, "He's not cold, he's terrified." I put his dirty red leash in my hand. We headed back through the woods with a bag of nuts. This haunts me. I told Scout while I kicked at dirt and he pawed at things in the woods what I'd wished I'd told her. I hope you do this with homeless people. Imagine if we gave each other shit for letting other people shiver. We'd change the fucking world.
When Jessica sent us this moment, I was already struck by it because I think there's something so powerful in that idea. Like, if we would just care for humanity the way that we, can feel so affronted by some sort of video about an animal that we see on the internet. So that was already on my mind. But then I ended up having an encounter with someone just recently, and she showed up on Sunday at church and kind of like blurted out this story to me in the kitchen, in the basement. And I was just like, oh, okay. Because she couldn't even hold it in. She literally like vomited this story out at me because she had just been picking up snacks for kids at the grocery store. And some angry man was yelling at the cashier. And that yelling of his made her so angry. But she was all the more frustrated with herself that she didn't say anything to the cashier when she left because she was in a rush to get these snacks back to the kids at church. And she basically was saying that there wouldn't have been any use in saying anything to the angry guy, but I could have said something to her, to the cashier, about how wrong it was that she had been treated that way. But because I was in a rush, I didn't stop to say anything. So I'm telling you because I need to say it, but it doesn't fix anything. And I think that's kind of akin to Jessica's story. You can't re-say the moment you've missed, even though the sharing of the moment does do something. Like there's some sort of release in it, but there's like that sense of the injustice, right? Just that inherent deep sense of a missed moment in the face of like injustice and humanity.
We've all had those moments of I could have said something. You know, it's funny. This is bringing up for me, this is kind of a weird tangent, but when I was in London just recently, that I was walking around the Tate Art Gallery at night, and a homeless man asked me to go get him a tea. And I said, sure, I'll find you a tea. I mean, I didn't say sure, actually, that happily. I said, sure. I didn't have my do-gooder spirit on, but I swear he sent me on a wild goose chase, knowing there was no tea to be found. Because I looked and looked and looked for tea and nothing was open. You know, I felt bad. I went into a restaurant that was open and we all tried to brainstorm how I could get tea to him because they didn't have any to-go cups. But in the end, I couldn't find a tea, and nor could I even find the man.
Oh, no.
I had wandered so far, I couldn't even meander my way back. So I think that's kind of funny because it was a moment attempted, but unfulfilled. So what do we do with that, Nat?
I mean, there's something interesting, right? Like you're not left, though, truly with any regret in that you made the effort. Like you made the effort to try and do a thing because he made the request. Whereas I think in these other two shared missed moments, the missed moment is much more personal because both people are left with the thing that they wish they had said.
Yes.
You did the do.
Well, I did the do for as long as I was willing to do it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, maybe a more persistent person might have just said, I will find that tea and I will find that man.
Right.
And then we will talk over tea with 5 sugars.
By a bridge near the Tate.
Yeah.
Dum, 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 dum.
And now, some housekeeping. Hey, Reframeables. Do you get something from these conversations? Would you consider becoming a supporter on Patreon? For as little as $2 a month, you could help to keep this show going. It's meaningful financially and relationally. It feels like a hug. For our Patreon supporters, we do mini episodes which we call Life Hacks and Enhancers, our 5 best things in a week. You could also tip us on our coffee account, where Natalie's recipe book is also for sale. Oh, and tell us what you want to hear more of. Listener messages make our week. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. All the links are in our show notes. Love, Nat and Beck.
Dum, 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 dum.
Here's another moment that was shared with us by A.J. So some listeners might remember that A.J. is a financial coach from New York who sent in a memory of a reframed missed moment that she sort of shared a little bit of in her episode just a little while back. But so she expands on it a little bit. You're going to actually get to hear her voice in a sec. She asked us if she could send us the story of what happened in her life because of a conversation that she didn't miss. So even though she wanted desperately to miss this moment, this was like a terrifying conversation for her to have, she thought it would be an interesting kind of flip on a missed moment that didn't get missed. So here's AJ.
Dum, 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 dum.
When I heard that you were doing a missed moments segment and really looking at how past decisions shape your future. It just felt so in sync with how I've been feeling lately, because I am sitting here right now in my beautiful condo that my husband and I own while my dog sleeps next to me and a baby growing inside of me. And I am constantly in awe, especially right now, especially at this cornerstone of my life, this new chapter of my life where none of this would have been possible had I taken any different route in the past. And I'm talking like 6-7 years ago. And so when I think of missed moments, I think about what my life would have looked like had I decided not to get my finances in order. I think about March of 2020, when for the first time in my life, I had stable work. So when I lost my job, I immediately got unemployment. I was living with my husband. I was like in a great financial place. I had savings. I didn't have any bad debt. I was like totally secure. Whereas had I not taken the steps to do that, if I missed those opportunities, if I kept waiting for someone to fix my problems or kept playing the victim of my life or kept just thinking I was the poor friend and bad with money, I would have ended up having to like live with my mom. We would have been fighting. It would have been hectic. It would have been scary. It would have been so debilitating for my self-esteem and my sense of self. And I would have felt so trapped and I would have been so angry and blamed. And none of that would have been possible had I not, years before that, been like, I'm taking ownership of my life. I'm reaching out to people who I realize are good with money and I'm asking them questions and I'm getting guidance and I'm getting help. And I'm going to stick with this because I value and want this future so badly, this future that I'm living right now. This is what I was working for, to become a mom, to have a dog, to find the love of my life. Like all of these things were things I wanted so badly that I was willing to do what it took, even though it was painful and uncomfortable and not glamorous, in order to make that happen. And so I'm always in recognition of who I was and that moment for me when things just really set in. I think if I'm to pinpoint one missed moment where I turned the corner of my life, was I was invited to Sri Lanka with my best friend. We had traveled the world together. We had just gone to Brazil. And I was like, in the past, I could always make it work. I would get like a private yoga client and I would have $500 to pay for the flight and I would figure it out. But I would be in chronic stress. I would save up all my money to go and then have no money left. And then I couldn't pursue my other passions. And I was always living paycheck to paycheck. And I realized like my grandparents were getting older. My friends were starting to get married and engaged. And I was like, am I going to miss out on all of this because I don't have the money and I'm going to have to work? And am I going to really make these short-term decisions, like going to Sri Lanka and spend all of this money and like not go see my grandparents who are aging and getting sick? And I just had this moment that I was like, I can't do this. And she kept asking me like every day, like, can we go? Can we book our tickets? Can we go? And I finally I wrote down a whole list and we went and got bagels. I think we went to yoga and then we got bagels and I was like literally panicking. I like opened up my notebook and she's like, why are you being so weird? And I'm like, I can't go to Sri Lanka because I need to start getting my finances in order. Like I can't live like this anymore. No one's going to fix my problems and I just need to figure this out and I can't do this. And she like held my hand while I called the debt collectors and I cried and I was like so overwhelmed. I had never done that before. I always just said yes to everything. And had that moment not happen, and had I not enrolled my best friend into supporting me on my journey of getting my finances in order, then I wouldn't be sitting here in this beautiful home in the life that I've created right now.
Dum, dum,
Interesting. It is actually a missed moment, though, if you think about it. She missed her moment to go to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that's so true. Nice.
She decided, though, that it was a good thing. But it makes me think there was a whole other life that would have happened if she went.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
You flipped the flipper.
Okay, and I have one of those because I find this an interesting one in my life, as I was so determined to go to theater school after university, which is fun. After university, I wanted to go to theater school. I decided that this was the answer to my life, was getting into theater school. So I worked and worked my butt off to get in, or in AJ's case, to not go to Sri Lanka, so to speak. And I got it. I did it. I chose that moment. And this is the kind of funny twist. I chose so hard and with such passion that on the first day, when all the first years we'd gathered to do monologues for each other, I jumped out of my seat to be the first. I was so excited to be there and kind of proud of my accomplishment. So I got up, started my monologue, and promptly forgot half of the monologue.
Oh, back.
And then I just sat back down. It's so weirdly humiliating if I think about it, but also just like, I don't know. I was just standing there doing my thing, and then just my mind went completely blank and I just sat down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's like a super vulnerable share, and I'm really proud of you. But I mean, I just think there's actually something strangely empowering. Like, is that the word that's coming to me with you just choosing to sit down? Like, I'm not going to fight this. I mean, I remember, right? Like, I remember having moments in art school when I was in high school. So it was a different kind of vibe, I think. Like dance. Oh my gosh. Like being a music theater major, I hated dancing. It was stupid and I didn't know how to do it. And so I would just try and stay sort of near the back so nobody could really see me. And there were definitely moments when I didn't know the dance moves. And I just pretended that people in the audience couldn't see me, even though you could. But I never sat down. Like, I like that you just took it one step further and said, nope, I'm out.
I have this friend, Sharon, in my life who says I've always been so clear about what I wanted. So I guess to sit or stand, I'm a chooser. But I think how that theater school, like just going there, well, like never mind the whole monologue, but it's really directed the course of my life, right? For better or for worse. So I don't regret going, but it hasn't been the answer. So I think that's also interesting in this, like the moments we miss or the moments we choose, still a life of lots of pain. And that's not poor me. That's just, we all have pain and we all have lots of it. So I don't know, choosing can lead to regret or not choosing. So what do you make of that?
Yeah. I mean, we know that line, right, of having to sort of choose the lesser of two evils. Like when we attach choice to something that is already difficult, I think we expect that there's just going to be sort of hard on either side, like whatever path one takes. But there's something different in the story you're telling there, because it's just like the difficulty actually emerged out of the choosing. And that's maybe way more human, way more authentically lived experience kind of true. And maybe that just means that we all could probably look back and reflect on our own experiences and go, yeah, actually, that's what this whole missed moment series is kind of about. Like there's the choosing and then there's the missed, and in all of it, life then moves on. But the way that it moves on is going to be different. Isn't that kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow Sliding Doors? Remember that film? Like it's just whatever the life is, whether you made it onto the train or didn't, it's still now the life you're living. But we do have those memories attached to the choices we make. So what do we do with those memories? I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're doing here with this conversation, is pondering that. I don't think we're coming up with answers per se, but like we're definitely sitting in that. So you know that we actually had somebody back send us a poem, which I thought was kind of neat. Like it's one thing to sort of share stories with us about missed moments. But Colin James responded to our call and sent us a poem. And his poem is called Do, the Do Without. And can I read it to you?
Yeah, read it slow.
Okay. Yeah, we need to ponder this one. And it's not very long. So here's the title again. Do, the Do Without. Resting between breaths, the artist administered some flickering poignancy to the clandestinizing of scholarship until the mural grew and grew in its simplicity. Shall I read it again?
Yeah, and what's that word?
Clandestinizing. I kind of want to add an I into it and make it clandestinizing, but he wrote clandestinizing, so I'm going to say it his way. He's the poet. It's his poem. Here we go. Trying it again. Resting between breaths, the artist administered some flickering poignancy to the clandestinizing of scholarship until the mural grew and grew in its simplicity.
It sounds like he's seizing the moment with the mural. It grows and grows. Is he worried that he's missing something?
But then there's that like made up word, clandestinizing. Like maybe he's playing with what's hidden in and under our choices. I mean, in this case, it's like an artistic choice. Like those painters, right? Whose faces kind of show up in their works unintentionally. They find that they've painted themselves into their work and they didn't even intend for it to happen. They're just so fully in the work.
What? I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of painters painted themselves in on purpose, or they painted like the face of the people who paid for the painting.
Oh.
But there are examples of famous artists who have all of a sudden shown up in their work and they would say that wasn't intentional. So essentially, I guess I would say that it seems like the poem is sort of saying that all the choices lead back to the self in some way. Like whether the choices we make seem purposeful or not, something was in there that led us to that choice. That's one way of maybe looking at it.
But then we asked him to explain.
Like we emailed
Colin
him and said,
tell us about your poem. Okay, so here's what he said. I have a relative who was quite a bit different from her peers. She told me that she had to put up with a lot of negativity directed toward herself when younger, yet despite this, couldn't help but be optimistic. I thought this quite wonderful and in logical contrast to most simmering cynicism, hence the title, Do Without. I would have given and gotten more in relationships if adopting such an attitude instead of internalizing.
I like his answer better, but it still does go back to the self. So I'm going to take my analysis on that one home to the bank. So they say.
Yeah, I like it though. A different way of looking, which, I mean, sort of, it's a nice summary because we have the choice with how we look at our memories, I guess.
Yeah.
We can hold them with a tight grip from one vantage point, or we can release them. Even if they were missed or seized, those moments, we have the choice to let them go, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Face them and then let them go. I don't know. I was listening to this one therapist say, you can't run from things that hurt. So we can't just deny. We have to face our trauma. You love that way of talking, right, Nat? You love the idea of working through something, like passing through.
Yeah.
It's very journey-oriented language. So journeying through these missed or seized moments and then starting to skip.
I like that idea. Not that I'll ever get to really skip again, but I think that there is something beautiful about, maybe that's why I am so focused on the journey, eh? Like I'm constantly obsessing about how much walking I can do because I just want to move. Like I have this leg that I can just move all the time.
But wait, you can skip?
Not great.
Skipping doesn't feel like skipping anymore.
No. I don't want to end this interview on a tears, Becca. But no, there are lots of things that are different. So, you know, those missed moments in the journey that sort of took me to here. You know, I think my thinking about it, as you just said, that the idea of like not running away from them, right? And maybe not running towards, okay, so skipping, whatever is our chosen bodily movement. But I'm thinking of like a group trust exercise. Like, you know how the kids have been doing that with Simon and Clifford these days at mom and dad's? They'll stand up on a couch and then fall back. But they're so little. So to fall back into the safety of their dad's arms doesn't require that much. But when we share our memories with people, and certainly our missed moments, there potentially could be like a bit of regret or shame kind of in them, right? Because that thing that we didn't quite do or the thing that we missed out on. So there is sort of a lovely potential group trust fall happening here when people share with us these missed moments or us sharing them with each other and with our listeners. So I don't know. That's like hashtag relatable. Like we're all doing it. So there's always the possibility for community building. That's what I always come back to, right? And I think that in these missed moments, I think that there is something of that here for us.
Hashtag trust fall.
Yeah.
Dum 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 dum.